Hey everyone, Chandler Bolt here, and welcome to today's training. I'm super excited to have you here. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. If you're just joining us, if you can let me know in the chat, just comment and let me know that you can hear me and see me. You should be able to see me waving my hands here. And also let me know where you're tuning in from. Like I said, we're going to get started in just 1 minute. So it looks like we got Charity from Germany, Michael from Indy. How's it going? Billy, Margaret, Tyrone checking in from Boardman, Ohio. How are you? Welcome to everyone who's just joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute here. I'll get my slides up. So if you're just joining us, please just comment in the chat box. Let me know that you can hear me and see me. And also let me know where you're tuning in from. So I got my little control center over here. I should be able to start seeing some folks kind of come in here. Joyce from Las Vegas, how's it going? Let's see, just checking off a couple things on my end. All right, CC from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yep, you're exactly in the right place, CC. Johanna, greetings from Sedona, Arizona. Thank you for this class. Happy and excited to be here. Let's see, cool. And if you guys can just keep commenting as you're kind of flooding in here. I do want to make sure that I don't have any audio issues. It looks like a couple people are unable to get on, so hopefully I'm not having any audio issues. So if you'll just comment and refresh the screen if you're having refresh the browser if you're having details, or sorry, if you're having problems. I'm mixing up my words here. Browser, okay. You're loud and clear. You're back and loud and clear. Okay, perfect. And let's see. Jim says I can hear you. Margaret says I can hear you. And we got a bunch more kind of flooding in here. So maybe we had some technical difficulties. Maybe we didn't. Either way, glad to have all of you here. I'm super excited to be getting this thing kicked off. So if you comment in the chat box one more time, if you're just starting to hear me, and let me know that you can hear me and see me and where you're tuning in from. We're going to get this thing kicked off. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to do it. So awesome. Heather says it's working now. So does Joel. Charity from Germany. Awesome. Can finally see you and hear you. Good news. Okay, great. John from Colorado Springs. Margaret from Oklahoma. Perfect. Cool. West Palm Beach. We got Janae from Minnesota. Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me just 1 second. And you should be able to see my title slide here in just a second. All right, so now I'm going to go full screen. And then I'll ask one time just to make sure that you can still see me, or sorry, not see me, but see the screen, and that you can still hear me. And we're going to go ahead and dive in to the presentation. So you should be able to see the title slide that says how to write and publish a faith-based book that gets read, inspires action, and spreads your message without wasting years of your life or selling your soul. Okay, Dr. Dave says all good. Laurie from New Jersey, good to have you. Okay, perfect. Looks like everyone can see the screen. So I'm super excited for this presentation. This is pretty different from a lot of the presentations that I do. I mean, I'm a Christian myself. This is not something I talk about in a lot of our instructional material. But over the years, we've helped tons of people write faith-based books. So much so that I decided to finally do a specific training on this topic. So if you're on the webinar and this is not something that's interesting to you, so you're not faith-based or you're not looking to write a faith-based book, then that's totally fine. We got a lot of other trainings that are great for that. This one's going to be very specific towards pastors, ministers, Christians, people who really want to write a faith-based book that gets read, inspires action, and spreads your message to other people. So I just firmly believe, and I'll talk about this in a minute, that writing a book is just such a great thing from a legacy perspective and from a spreading your message. That's why I'm doing this. So I'm really excited to be doing this training. So if you stay till the end, you're going to get two things. You're going to get my presentation slides and also my notes on the presentation. So be sure to stick all the way to the end of this presentation. We're going to have a lot of fun, and you're going to learn a lot. Now, if we're just now meeting for the first time, quick introduction. My name's Chandler Bolts. I'm originally from Walhalla, South Carolina. It's a small town in the middle of nowhere that you've almost definitely never heard of. I've written and published 6 books myself, made hundreds of thousands of dollars from my books, and taught thousands of people how to write and publish their first book through my program, Self-Publishing School. So this is a company I've grown to a little over $7 million in the last 3 years. And I did all this despite being a C- English student. So if I can write a great book, then you definitely can too. Now, a fun fact and something that not a lot of people know about me, but that's definitely going to relate specifically to this training, is that my brother plays in a rock and roll band called Need to Breathe. So it's a Christian rock band. Maybe you've heard of them. Actually, I'd love to hear from you guys. So, and this is going to be an interactive presentation, by the way. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth. You guys can comment in the chat box, and those go directly to me. So all your comments go directly to me. So I'd love to hear, has anyone heard the band Need to Breathe? So maybe you've heard their song Something Beautiful or Multiplied or Difference Maker. Honestly, if you listen to Christian radio, you definitely have heard them over the last decade or, gosh, probably longer than that. So Deanna says, I love that group. Jane says, I love Need to Breathe. Nick, absolutely. Ashley, Jim, Kay, Michael. Through Smoke. Yeah, that's a good one, Nick. That's a classic. Melissa, yes, I like them a lot. Heather says that's my husband's favorite band. Awesome. Okay, so a lot of people have heard of them. And then, yeah, Heather says, I think I saw them at Red Rocks. Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I'll talk about that in a second. So my brother's he's the one with the long hair here, Seth. He's also got a treehouse business. Maybe you've seen something about his tree houses that he's building in South Carolina. So this is actually a picture of my family. Speaking of Red Rocks, Heather, this is my family at Red Rocks. So my brother plays at Red Rocks pretty much every year. So a venue in Colorado. And this is a picture of my family here. And I saw Cece says, yes, they gave a bunch of tickets to veterans for their concert. That's awesome. Yeah. So, this one's my brother right here. So a few years ago, gosh, it's been years and years back. My brother and I had this call that kind of changed my life and changed his life forever. So I had went off to college, and he was traveling the world playing, shows with Need to Breathe. And he was out in Portland, Oregon at the time, and I was in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I was going to school. And we started talking, and we realized that there were all these life lessons that our parents had taught us growing up that we thought were second nature, right? We thought everyone learned this stuff. But then we got out into the real world and realized that nobody gets taught this stuff, right? So we kind of realized, how lucky we were to have amazing parents. But then also we felt like we had a message that needed to be shared. And this was kind of the day, we call it the call that changed everything, right? This is the day that I decided to write my very first book. And me and my brother embarked on this journey of writing and publishing our first book together. Now, the goal was to write about 15 things that our parents taught us growing up. Again, that we thought were normal, but then we realized it wasn't normal once we got out into the real world. And we were going to write kind of 2 parts of the book. So Seth's perspective on those 15 things as a successful musician, and my perspective as a business guy, right? So kind of these 2 takes on these same 15 things. So if you get the book, you can read his perspective, you can read my perspective, you can read both, and you kind of get, right brain, left brain, different takes on the same thing. So we embarked on this journey, and we decided we're going to write this book in 1 week, right? So this is kind of this crazy idea where we said, hey, we are both extremely busy, and there's no way that we're going to be able to do this and just have one more thing in our life over the course of the next 2 years. So if we're going to do this, we're going to need to double down and just knock it out, publish it, and move on, right? So we can carve off a week around Christmas. We can write this thing, get it done, and then publish it. So you're looking at the mind map, which I'm going to teach you about this process a little bit later. So we kind of broke down the book into 5 sections: mindsets, actions, influences, momentum, and money. And then we had all these different chapters within these sections. So we ended up writing and publishing the book publishing the book, but we ended up writing the book in 1 week. Now, this book served 2 purposes. Number one, it was to it was an ode to our parents. So we felt like we had learned these things and we needed to share that with the world. So, that this didn't die with us or it didn't die with our parents, right? And then also it was a charity project. So our goal was to raise a ton of money for charity. So all the profits were donated to a charity called One World Health. And this is so basically for every book sold, it saved a life. So the concept is kind of like Tom's shoes, right? Buy one book, and not only will you change your life, but you'll save someone else's life through a life-saving malaria pill, right? So that was kind of the purpose behind the book. And so that's what we did. And now this book ended up helping, thousands and thousands of people around the world. This is a book, a picture of someone reading it in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. We ended up getting featured on in K-Love, like the K-Love app. They talked about the book and promoted the book, which was kind of cool. And then I kind of decided to practice what we were preaching in this book called Breaking Out of a Broken System. I decided to drop out of school. Now, about the time I decided to drop out of school, I wrote and published my second book. It's called The Productive Person. And I remember being on a chairlift here with a friend, and he said, "Hey, Chandler, I hear your book's doing well." So my second book, is the book actually making any money? And I thought for a second, and I said, actually, you know what? Yes. While we were snowboarding yesterday, the book made over $400. And it was kind of this light bulb moment for me, right? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Where I dropped out of school and the book was making what some people in the music industry would call mailbox money, right? This passive income that just kind of shows up month after month after month. And that was from work that I did once. So I built this asset that paid the bills when I dropped out of school and while I was kind of transitioning out of school and into starting my own business. So we always say that a book is kind of like a key that opens the door to Narnia. How many of you have seen the book, The Chronicles of Narnia? Oh, cool. And Karen says, love their song, Hard Love. And Janae says, being a parent of 3 boys, what a wonderful tribute to yours. Awesome. Yeah. So if you've seen the Chronicles of Narnia, you know that they, kind of discover this key that opens this door to this magical land, right? That they never knew existed. Now, this is what we've seen happen a lot of times when people write and publish books. So there's kind of all these opportunities that's starting to pop up. So for me personally, I started getting interviewed for top podcasts. Got featured on the Huffington Post, got offered a 7-figure digital publishing deal, built an email list, started a business. It gave me confidence. And what I was doing, it gave me confidence to take on bigger and better projects. Now, as a result of all this, I'm just a firm believer that a book is the best way to not only leave a legacy, but to also make an impact on others and to earn extra income. So I've kind of seen both sides of things where it's, doing a major launch for charity where I didn't make any money off of the book. That was just purely a legacy and an impact play. And then the other side, which is, I've published multiple other books that have made a ton of money, right? So no matter which purpose that you're going with, that's what my goal is, to kind of touch on both and show you how to do either one on this webinar today. So why a book? Well, some obvious reasons. I mean, obviously it's personally fulfilling while also leaving a legacy. It legitimizes you in your industry or in your field. And then this is crazy. Not a lot of people know this, but over 70% of all books sold are sold on Amazon. So there's over 310 million buyers on Amazon. So you're able to tap into this existing ecosystem. Whereas it used to be that you had to have a publisher, you had to have an agent, you had to have, kind of all these things, and it would take you years to get published, and then you'd earn pennies on the dollar. Now that's not the case. So check this out. There's kind of been this massive shift in the industry where now the big 5 publishers only account for 16% of best-selling ebooks, and less than 45% of author earnings go to traditionally published authors. Now, on the flip side, indie authors, so independent publishers, independently published authors or self-published authors, earn 70% of the profit from the book. So there's been kind of this huge shift where not only is it easier to publish a book and there's less red tape, but also you can earn a whole lot more money doing it. Now, on the flip side, this is kind of the depressing side of things, is the average author sells less than 100 copies of their book, right? While what I call the thriving 1% make all the money. So it's kind of crazy. So what I kind of want to do in this presentation is break it down into 3 parts. So part number 1, we're going to talk about how to find or refine your book idea for maximum impact and maximum income. Part number 2, we're going to talk about how to actually get the book written. okay, and how you can do it in as little as a weekend, or if you want to do it like my brother and I did it, you can do it in a week. And then part number 3, we're going to talk about how to successfully launch the book and earn $10,000 or more from that book launch without selling your soul. And then at the very end, I'm going to share some info with you on how you can personally work with us to write and publish your book successfully. Okay, does that sound like a plan? So we'll go about till the hour mark, and then I'll stay for any questions that you have there. Okay, so let's dive into lesson number 1. Now, first things first, I'd love to get kind of poll the audience here. How many of you have no idea what you would write your book about? If that's you, type no idea. How many of you have an idea? If that's you, type I have an idea. And then lastly, how many of you have too many ideas? So you've got like a bajillion ideas and you're not sure which book to write first. If that's you, type too many ideas. So no idea if you have no idea. I have an idea if you have an idea. And then too many ideas if you have too many ideas. Okay, let's see. Eugene says no idea. Lindsay says I have an idea. Sonny, Charity, I have an idea. Dr. Dave, too many ideas. I have an idea, too many, in fact. Love it. Timothy says, I have too many ideas trying to focus on one. Oh, Heather, I have an idea and I'm in the middle of writing now. That's awesome. James, I have too many ideas. Okay, a lot of answers kind of coming in here. Awesome. I have an idea, unsure. Almost done, 360 pages. Wow, that's awesome. Rich says, I have plenty of ideas. Okay, cool. So I'm going to break this presentation or this part of the presentation down into 2 parts. So part number 1 is going to be what if you don't have an idea, or if you kind of need to dig that idea up. And then part number 2 is what if you have too many ideas? How do you choose which book to write about first? So first things first, I'll introduce you to what I call the idea finder. So these are just a handful of questions that you can ask yourself to kind of discover what you want to write about. So I'll go through these. Number 1, what are people at your church coming to you for advice on? So whether you're a pastor, a minister, or just a member of the congregation, what are people coming to you for advice or feedback on? What do you teach from the pulpit or in your small groups? So again, maybe you're a pastor and you've got entire sermon series that you could package into a bunch of different books. I mean, that's kind of the thing I love about working with pastors and ministers is that you guys they're just sitting on so much content, right? You have to literally create an entire new lesson every single week. And so, you've got a lot of those that you could pull together into a book. Or maybe you're teaching in your small group. What's that? What are you teaching there? What are the broken record conversations that you have with people in your congregation? So, maybe, whether you're a pastor or whether you're an attendee, what are these conversations that you're having over and over and over again? And then what are you most passionate about, or a topic that you know a lot about? And then the last one is, what do you get paid for, or what's your expertise? Because a lot of times we can take what we do out in the real world and we can apply like a faith-based lens to that, and we can help people in that arena from a faith-based perspective, right? Which I think this part is really, really powerful. If you don't necessarily want to write a full-on book about your faith, but if you just want to write a book about, let's say self-help, or a nonfiction book that has a faith-based angle, right? So these are the 5 questions. Again, you'll get the slides if you stay till the end. I'll give you a link to the slides. So you can also take a picture of this slide. So this is if you have no idea. Now let me just give you kind of some ideas here. So this is a bunch of students that we've worked with in the past. So this is one of our students, Michael Lacey. He's a worship leader, and he wrote this book called As We Fight, a weekly guide to the warfare of worship, which I think this cover is just great. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then here's another one from Kiana Barnes, Journey to Peace, 31 Devotions Through the Grief of Miscarriage, Stillbirth, or Other Pregnancy Loss. So again, taking a difficult situation in life and then, helping people with that. Prayer plus essential oils. So this is prayer in the power zone. So elevate your frequency, quiet your mind, and enhance your prayers with pure essential oils. So this is another one of our students, Janine Wooten. This is Ellen Rosenberger. So missionaries are real people, surviving transitions, navigating relationships, overcoming burnout and depression, and finding joy in God, right? So kind of this is a guide for fellow missionaries. And then the last one here is Healing Anorexia. So this is from Candy Johnson, learning acceptance by embracing God's love, right? So a lot of different topics here. Hopefully this is kind of spurring some ideas for you. Now, here's the second question. Now, this is for people who have way too many ideas. How do you know which book to write first? So I've got kind of 3 questions that will help you narrow in on this. So question number 1, which one can I finish the fastest? So maybe you have the most content or life experience around this topic. Now ask yourself, all the people who put too many ideas, be asking yourself this question. So which one can I finish the fastest? Question number 2, which one am I most likely to finish? So maybe you're passionate about this topic and you're likely to take it to the finish line. And then question number 3, which one is going to make me happy, right? Which one am I going to enjoy writing? Now, let me give you a quick example. This is actually of my mom. So my mom's working on her first book right now. She'd seen me teach thousands of people this process through self-publishing school. And she finally said, hey, Chandler, it's time for me to write a book. Now, she had 2 book ideas. Book idea number 1 was my mom's a realtor. So she said, hey, I could write a real estate book. It'd help me get more clients, sell more houses, all that good stuff, right? Now, there's the flip side, which is a different book idea, which she said, hey, so my mom is what some people would call a mistake baby. So she was born into a household where, they weren't intentionally trying to have her, right? So she grew up her whole life feeling like she wasn't wanted and like she was in this situation, kind of in her home, in her family where, they didn't exactly want her there. Right? Just kind of that undercurrent. So she wants to write a book on how do you survive and thrive when you feel like you're in a situation or in places in your life where people don't want you there. How do you survive? How do you thrive? And overcome that, right? So 2 very different books. Now, let me ask you a question. Which one of those books, according to these 3 questions, do you think I said that she should write first? And actually, most of the time people get this wrong. So it was actually the real estate book. And I'll tell you why. If you go through these questions, which one can I finish the fastest? So she could write the real estate book blindfolded, right? I mean, that's just going to be so easy. Which one is she most likely to finish? She's also most likely to finish that one because the other one's going to be therapeutic, right? It's going to be like going through therapy, kind of writing that book and birthing that into the world. And then which one's going to make me happy? Long-term, probably the unwanted book versus the real estate book. But here's the thing, and this is a key takeaway here. Learning how to write a book is like learning how to ride a bike. Once you know how to do it, you can do it again and again and again and again. So a lot of times your first book is going to be getting the hang of the process, or it can be that way. And then, so for my mom's sake, she can write that kind of, that's the legacy book. That's the long after she's off this earth, she's going to want that book to help a ton more people, right? So those are the 3 questions to help you kind of narrow in on which book to write first. All right, so let's dive into lesson number 2. You guys tracking with me so far? We're going to talk about how to write the book and how to write it quickly. Or at least how to make the process as painful as possible. And John says marketing is the tough part. Yeah, it can be for some people, and that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in lesson number 3. So stay tuned, and I'll definitely be able to help with that. Let's see. Jim says yes, good stuff. Heather says my mother-in-law so needs that book. Awesome. So let's keep going. So we're going to move into the writing portion. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout, and I hated writing. So as you can imagine, I was pretty intimidated when I decided to write and publish my very first book. So what I did is I went to a mentor, and I said, hey, Adam, his name is Adam Carroll. I said, hey, Adam, you've written and published a book. How did you do it? I want to shortcut this process. Teach me how you did it. So he introduced me to this concept called mind mapping. How many of you have heard of a mind map? So a mind map is simply a brain dump of kind of all the ideas that you have around your book. So it's a brain dump, right? Now check this out. So we're going to walk through the mind map process in just a second. Yes, like a cluster chart. Yes. So this is kind of what a mind map looks like. And actually, I think I mentioned this earlier. My brother and I used this exact process to write our first book. So you can see this is kind of the mind map turned outline and for our book. So what I want to walk you through is the process on how to create a mind map. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download the mind map. So if you go to, you should have gotten an email prior to the webinar with a link to download your mind map. Or if you just go to self-publishingschool.com/apply and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's going to be a link where you can click over to find the mind map. So if you haven't already, go and either download and print your mind map or just take out a blank sheet of paper. Okay, so go ahead and take out a blank sheet of paper right now. Once you've got your blank sheet of paper, then go ahead and comment in the chat box. Say I have my sheet of paper. All right, and because we're going to dive into the mind map process. Okay, so step number 1. So you're going to go ahead and write your book topic in the middle of the page. So think these are the things that we just talked about in lesson 1 of this presentation. So how do you get clear on what you're going to write about? So either you found it in the idea finder or we got clear on it when we were honing down through those 3 questions. So go ahead and write that in the middle of a page. Okay, Kathy says, got it. Charity, I have it. Annika, I have my sheet. Sandy, I have my sheet. Dr. Crosby is ready. Awesome. Love it. Okay, cool. So go ahead and write your book topic in the middle of the page. We're actually going to work on your mind map here in a second. So you're going to make progress on your book before you leave here. All right, so step number 2, you're going to write out everything that you can think of on that topic. Okay, so we're going to, think stories that you've told. If this is those broken record conversations, what are the examples that you have around this? Lessons that you've learned, other books that you've read, ideas that you can share, etc. We're going to go ahead and do that in just a second. So you should have, a piece of paper that looks something like this. If you printed this out ahead of time, then you can do this, or you can just get a blank sheet of printer paper and go ahead and write your book idea in the center of the page. And then you're going to go ahead and branch out and start to create your mind map here, okay? So I'm actually going to play some music here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and grab your mind map sheet. I see Maxine says, I've got it. Ted says, yep, got it. Danielle, got it. Marilyn, I have it. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and take probably 2 minutes here. I'm going to play some music, and I want you to go ahead and start working on your mind map, okay? So go ahead and start working. We're going to take 2 minutes to work on your mind map. All right, if you're just joining us, we're working on our mind map. We're going to take probably about 1 more minute. So keep going with that blank sheet of paper, writing out stories that you've heard or that you have around this topic, lessons that you've learned. All right, 15 more seconds working on your mind map. All right, pencils down. I'm just kidding. All right, so how was that? Go ahead and comment in the chat box. Let me know if you made progress. So if you made some progress, just type in the chat box, "I made progress." We'd love to hear how that process went for you. I usually, I travel around speaking and giving a talk like this to teach this process. And I usually ask people to hold up their mind map, and I would ask you to do that, but I can't see you right now. So I'll just have to take your word for it. So comment in the chat box. Let me know, was that process helpful? Let's see. Annika says, "I made progress." Gijo says, "Yes, I did." Lindsay, "I made progress." Cece made progress. Dr. Crosby says, "Good, made progress." Laura says, "Too many topics shooting off the main one. LOL, that's perfectly fine." Maxine made progress. Yeah, Charlotte says, "Made progress, except I found out that I wrote down everything. So just lost my niche for a moment. Just expanded out." Yeah, so a lot of people made a ton of progress. And now just keep in mind, this is a brain dump, right? So this is meant to be unfiltered. So there's no judgment at this point, right? And we need to just get everything out on paper. And so here's the thing. I gave you 2 minutes to do this. This process usually takes 15 to 45 minutes, and then you'll fully get the mind map done. So what I'd love for you guys to do is as soon as this webinar is over, so in about 30 minutes, or maybe tonight before you go to bed, I'd love for you to take 15 minutes to go ahead and finish this mind map. I think what you'll find, or at least what a lot of our students have found, is that once they get the mind map done, they go from thinking, "Hey, this is a topic I could write 5 pages on," to, "Wow, I could write, maybe 2 or 3 books. I got to figure out which one to write first." So if you can commit to taking 15 minutes after this webinar or tonight before you go to bed to finish your mind map, then just type in the chat box, "I can commit to that." So I'd love for you to do that, and I think you'll find this process to be really helpful. Now, once you get that done, you're going to start to organize your common topics into groups or sections. So this is going to form 4 to 7 sections that you will be kind of the overarching order for your book. And then you're going to use those sections to form your book outline. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, this is exactly what my brother and I did to write our book in 1 week. So we drilled down into 5 sections. We had, I think it was 3 chapters per section. And so then we had a 15-chapter outline that we could write as we went through the book. Excuse me. Awesome. We got a lot of people committing to getting their mind map done. Jim, Laura, Margaret, Deanne, I think it is, Nick, Lindsay, Charity, Charlotte, Robert, bunch more coming in. That's awesome. So once you get this process done, writing the book actually becomes the easy part. And I know that probably sounds hard to believe, but let me walk you through this. So you're going to repeat this process that we just did on a big picture, on kind of on a chapter by chapter basis. So this is exactly what my brother and I did. So you're going to spend 10 minutes mind mapping everything you can think of on that chapter. So let's say we're starting with the first chapter. Then you're going to spend 10 minutes turning that mind map into an outline. And then you're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour writing the chapter, right? So now all of a sudden you're going to, if this is what my brother and I were doing, you were writing about one chapter every 2 hours or so by following this process. And you're going to repeat this process chapter by chapter by chapter, right? Now, this is the fun part. So how many of you speak better than you write? Right. So if you speak better than you write, this kind of becomes a choose your own adventure. So you can spend 10 minutes mind mapping the chapter, 10 minutes turning that mind map into an outline, and then 10 minutes speaking the chapter. Now check this out. I'll show you how this works. So here's how to speak your book in 3 steps. So step number 1, you're going to speak the chapter from your outline. Step number 2, you're going to get it transcribed. And then step number 3, you're going to polish it off. Right. So now you can either pay an editor or you can do the editing yourself. But instead of staring at that dreaded blank Word doc, then you can actually have some words to work with that are on the page. Right. Now, the question I get asked a lot is how fast can you have a rough draft finished, and how long should the book be? So the ideal length of a book is anywhere from 15 to 40,000 words. And the average person speaks about 150 words a minute. So that means you can easily speak your book in a few hours, right? This is meant to be an extreme example, but you can definitely get it done in a weekend. Or if you want to do like my brother and I did, so we didn't have a process like this to follow. We were just figuring it out by trial and error on our own, and we still were able to do the rough draft in 1 week. Now, if you're kind of skeptical of the mind mapping process, this is from Hannah Latonic. She says, originally I despised mind maps. I now love mind mapping. I can see my book come to life without yet writing a single word. I went from 0 to 13,000 words in 2 weeks just from following this process. And this process is also so easy that an 8-year-old can do it. Now, this is our youngest student. Her name's Emma Sumner. She wrote and published a book called The Fairies of Waterfall Island. And this book brought in $4,000 in book sales in 3 months. She donated all of that to this autism awareness charity called Autism Speaks. And she was able to get on, kind of all this TV, magazine. She did a book signing with 10,000 people there. Her and I were on Good Morning Sacramento. She just literally just followed this process and launched and wrote her book. The truth here is you do have time to write a book. Don't tell me you don't have time to write a book. That's the biggest excuse that I get is, hey, I don't have time. And the second thing here is it can be done in as little as a weekend. So you can either double down and get it done, or in a weekend, or you can kind of chip away at it 30 minutes a day over the course of a few weeks. And you don't have to be a natural writer or the next Hemingway, right? If you speak better than you write, then do that. Now, another question I get often is, how much of my faith do I share in my book? Should I include it in the title, in the subtitle? Should I even talk about my faith in the book or not? Now, I'll give you an example here. So back in the day, my brother's band Need to Breathe. So they were really kind of struggling with this, right? If any of you have been fans of the band for a long time, you've seen this. And they actually, they wrote a whole album about it and released a whole album called The Outsiders, where they really felt like they were the outsiders, where the Christian market didn't accept them because they felt like they were too mainstream. And then the mainstream market didn't accept them because they were a Christian man, right? So they kind of felt like there were these outsiders where they weren't accepted in their own home, right, in the Christian market, but then they also weren't accepted, in other markets. So they would get turned down for all these big tours because there were these outsiders, right? So they kind of dedicated this whole album to it, and they were really conflicted with how much of our faith do we share in our music. Should we go the mainstream route? Should we go the Christian route? What should we do? And there's actually a great little documentary. This was a rough time for the band. And there's a great documentary that was put together on it where it's called Prove the Poets Wrong. And it kind of documents, hey, this was a tough period of time for them. And they were really struggling with this. And then finally, they decided to just double down, and they said, hey, this is who we are. This is my faith. We're just going to share it, right? And they doubled down on that, and they started releasing all these more faith-based songs. So you can see this interview with them in the Rolling Stones talking about this exact same thing, right? The Christian band Stigma. Now, what they did is they started just doubling down, and they wrote a lot of their biggest hits since then. You've almost definitely heard a lot of them, which is Multiplied, right? They wrote Difference Maker, if you've heard that. They wrote Slumber, if you've heard that. They wrote Testify. They wrote Walking on Water, like all these different songs. And now it's been their biggest kind of they're more successful than they've ever been, right? Right after they did that, their album debuted at #2 on the Billboard charts. They also got nominated for a Grammy. It's kind of all these things happened as a result of them embracing their faith, right? So my one encouragement for folks who, can kind of who are struggling with this and like, how much of my faith do I include or not include? I would just really encourage you to embrace it, right? I know that they did this and it's made a big difference. All right, now we're in the home stretch here. I'm a little bit behind pace, so I'm going to keep moving quickly. Are you guys tracking with me? Is this helpful so far? Hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to go into a Q&A in about 20 minutes. So we're in the home stretch here. So save your questions. If you have questions, you can ask them then, and we're going to really get into the meat of the marketing portion. Awesome. Yes, good stuff. Yes, this is helpful. Awesome. So we're going to talk about how to successfully launch your book and earn $10,000 or more without selling your soul. Now, the first things first we got to get over is the mindset. The mindset of making money. Now, oftentimes, as a Christian, as a minister, as a pastor, or as someone of faith, there's this stigma around, combining faith and money. And there's this stigma around making money. Like, if I make money, I'm all of a sudden going to become this bad person, right? And so a lot of times people struggle with this. They struggle with making money because there's all these kind of bad beliefs around money and around making money. And so they almost shun making money because they feel like it's going to make them a bad person. And one of the best examples or kind of rebuttals to this that I heard, which I thought was really interesting, is how many of you guys have heard of the story of the Good Samaritan? Right? So the Good Samaritan, you know the story. There was a guy who had been beat up, kind of left for dead on the side of the road. This priest passed him. All these people passed him. But the Samaritan was about to pass him, and they stopped by and helped him, right? And even though it was a Samaritan, and Samaritans hated the Jews, and this guy was a Jew, even despite all of that, he stopped to help them. He fixed him up. He bandaged him up. He put him on his donkey. He took him to the inn and stayed overnight with him. And then when he had to leave the next day, he gave 2 coins to the innkeeper and says, "Hey, take care of him. Make sure that he's taken care of. And if it costs more than this, I'll come back and pay the debt." Right? So the big takeaway here is that the Good Samaritan could not have helped this man if he didn't have the money to do so. Okay, I'll repeat that. The Good Samaritan could not have helped this man in the way that he did if he couldn't have paid for him to stay in the hotel and really truly get better. So when it comes to making money, we need to shell off this stigma and just know that money is a vehicle to do good. And it's simply that, and it amplifies your intentions, right? So if you're a good person, money will help you do more good, right? If you're a bad person, money will probably help you do more bad. Now, and I'm going to get into the marketing piece, but I just feel like this is really important to start with this mindset where, money is able to do a lot of good things. This is why I'm so passionate about books. This is why I'm so passionate about business, because over the past, few years, I've been able to, by running a business and making a good bit of money, I've been able to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to my church. We've built a school through Pencils of Promise. We've kind of been able to do all these things and impact so many people that wouldn't have been able to happen if we didn't have the economic engine to do so, right? So I think it's really important. This is kind of a lesson that I learned the hard way. That when I was trying to launch my business a few years ago, and I woke up one day and I had negative balances in both my checking and saving account. And then I went to make myself a sandwich, and I had this double in-piece peanut butter sandwich, right? And I realized that if I don't get an economic engine in my business, I'm not going to be able to help the people that I want to help when it comes to writing and publishing their book. So kind of that day, I embarked on learning marketing and learning how to really grow a business and publish a book. So I invested, tens of thousands of dollars and tons of hours and time and money and resources, all that stuff into learning the skill of marketing. So I launched a book called Book Launch. This book helped me land on the homepage of the Your section of Business Insider. They did this story on how self-publishing school was kind of changing the publishing industry. And this book kickstarted my business. So it helped me go from 0 to $1.32 million in business over the next 11 months. And so it's pretty powerful. So what I want to walk you through here in this portion is 3 steps to successfully launching your book. Okay. So I'm going to walk through the 3 steps I use to launch my book, the 3 steps that you can use to launch your book. So step number 1 is get a good cover that grabs attention. People say don't judge a book by its cover, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. But we all judge books by their cover. So you need to have a good cover. So your cover needs to do a couple things. Number 1, it needs to grab attention. Number 2, the title needs to be instantly readable. So it needs to be readable in the upper third. And then number 3, if I'm a prospect or someone who might be interested in your book, I need to instantly know what your book is about and whether or not it will help me, right? So I've got a couple examples here. This is my book, Book Launch. So that grabs attention. It's an orange cover. The title is easy to read, and it's in the upper third. And I would guess that you instantly know what the book's about, right? It's about how to launch a book. Number 2 example here, published, right? Grabs attention. You got kind of the red-blue contrast. The title is easy to read. It's in the upper third, and you instantly know what the book's about. I was given a talk the other day at a conference. I said, hey, what do you guys think this book's about? There was a 9-year-old in the audience named Jude, and he said it's about publishing. And yes, that's exactly right. So if your title and subtitle and your cover needs to be so easy to understand that a 9-year-old could know whether or not what the book's about and whether or not it's for them, right? So step number 1, get a good cover that grabs attention. Step number 2, build a launch team. I'm going to walk through this process in a second. And then step number 3, get reviews. So it's very important that not only do you get reviews when you launch, but you get reviews ongoing to kind of keep the Amazon algorithm happy, because Amazon's going to promote your book the more reviews that you have, which leads to more book sales and more lives impacted through your book. So I'm going to kind of go 2 birds, 1 stone here and talk about a launch team and how you can use that to successfully launch your book, but also get reviews. So first things first, what's a launch team? A launch team is simply a small group of people that support your book. So this could be friends, it could be family members, it could be colleagues, right? So this could be, 5 people, 15 people, 50 people. If you're a pastor, it could be members of your congregation, anything like that. And then there's 2 sides of the coin. So there's what they agree to do and then what they get in return. So what they agree to do is read your book ahead of time and leave a review when it launches. This helps you get a lot of reviews when your book launches. What they get in return is they get a free digital copy of the book. They get their name in the book, and then they also get to be a part of something special, right? So they get kind of see the behind the scenes of this. Now, how I do this is I'll run the launch team via a Facebook group. Now, if you don't like Facebook, you don't have to use Facebook, but I'll kind of drip out assignments. So I'll do this. I'll have 4 to 6 assignments in the weeks leading up to the book. So maybe one week will be, hey, we're going to get TV, radio, newspaper, press, right? Blogs, podcasts, stuff like that. The next week, it might be read the book. The next week, it might be leave a review and share with your friends, right? So this just really creates kind of a massive amplification of your book and of the message behind it. Now, what happens when you follow these steps? A couple things. Or I'll give you a couple examples here. So this first example, this is Otakar Kletke. So she says she was working 2 jobs to make ends meet, and her entire income was earned actively. But afterwards, she doubled her income, all passive income from her books, and she was able to quit both of her jobs and homeschool her daughter, right? Another example, this is one of our coaches and previous students. So she went from a freelancer to an author. She's written gosh, a bunch of books up into this point, makes a few $1,000s a month in passive income. This is probably one of my favorite examples. So this is Eileen Wilder. Now, she wrote a book called The Brave Body Method. So she is a pastor, and she wrote this book helping women with body image issues, right? And so The Brave Body Method, she wrote it and self-published it through Self-Publishing School. It sold very well. And then the publisher noticed those sales. She got picked up by a publisher. Next thing she knew, she was front of store in Barnes & Noble, right? Doing a book signing. So pretty powerful. Now, one last thing, and we're kind of going to the home stretch here, and then we'll wrap. So stick with me for maybe 10 more minutes or so, and then we'll be able to answer your questions. So kind of the mechanics of how to have a $10,000 book launch. Now, two things. Number one, I recommend that you publish in all formats, because that's really, some people buy audiobooks, they wouldn't buy print books. Some people buy Kindle books, they wouldn't buy print or audio. So you're going to not only are you going to make more money during your launch, but you're also going to make more money long term. Because think about this, and this is kind of the cool thing of publishing a book on Amazon, is that, like, let's say 2 years from now, in a random month, 25 or 50 people buy your book, right? That's still hundreds of dollars in mailbox money that's kind of coming in, passive income, if you will, right? Now, on the flip side, if you're using this as a driver for business, so if you want to get clients off of the book, then it's a lot easier to have a kind of a $10,000 launch by using this to bring in clients, if that makes sense. Now, I'll give you a couple examples here. This is from Otakara Kletke. So she says 9-month bestseller, over 10,000 copies sold. Thank you, SPS. So she says, let's see, if you're on your journey, don't give up. When you publish a Kindle book, don't stop and make it all formats. I wouldn't be selling 10,000 plus books monthly if I didn't do that. If I can do that despite English being my second language, so can you. Okay, so pretty cool example there. And then this is David McKay. So from a business perspective, so he emailed me a little while back. He said, hey, it's been exactly 1 year since I wrote and published my book with you guys. The books have brought in over $10,000 in royalties and $45,000 in business. And his book brings in, 30 to 40 leads every single week. So it's been a huge vehicle kind of for growing his business. All right, so the truth here, and you guys track with me. I think a couple of folks are having connection issues. So if you're having a connection issue or it freezes up, just refresh your browser and then also kind of close out of other tabs if you need it, so that you can kind of free up some bandwidth. I want to make sure that that this isn't affecting everyone else. So the truth here is you don't need to be tech savvy to launch a book. You don't need a publisher, but you do need to learn marketing. Okay, John, Laura, Jim, thank you. You do need to learn marketing from someone, right? Now, it doesn't have to be us, but you do need to learn this skill, and you do need to take marketing seriously, because the old adage, if you build it, they will come, is just simply not true. Not only do you need to invest time, money, and energy into the skill of marketing, but you need to take it seriously and just know that that's what's going to provide an economic vehicle for you to impact for more people and for you to do more good. Okay? So that's the truth there. Now, just to recap kind of what we've learned so far. So we kind of talked about three things. Number one, we talked about how to get clear on your idea. Number two, we talked about how to write your book quickly. Let's see. Number three, we talked about how to successfully launch your book. So kind of the 3 steps to successfully launching your book. Now, let me ask you a question. Has this presentation felt a little bit like this? Right? I kind of opened up the fire hose and I've just jammed in as much as I could possibly teach in the past 54 or so minutes that we've been here together. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things to know, and it can be a difficult process when it comes to writing and publishing a book. So I can't teach you everything to know in 54 minutes on how to do it. So because of that, I've put together a special program to help you write and publish your book faster, how to do it the right way so that you can impact a whole lot more people. So what I'd like to ask is for your permission to tell you about that. So if you'll just comment in the chat box, let me know if I have your permission. You just type yes or something like that. And if so, then I'll take 5 minutes or so to tell you about that. I've got something really special for folks who have stayed to the end of this webinar that I think you guys will really like, and I think it'll really help you. And I'll take just a few minutes to share that, and then we'll dive into your questions. Yes, yes, sure, yes. Love it. Yeah. Awesome. Let it rip. Awesome. Yes, please. Permission granted. Thank you. So what I want to tell you about is Self-Publishing School. So you've already heard me kind of mention a little bit about this throughout the presentation. But Self-Publishing School, it's an online education company. We help people write and publish books, right? And really how to use those books to have a bigger impact. Now, a lot of people ask, what is it? Well, it's kind of like a cross between Indiana Jones and Jillian Michaels, right? So we blaze the path and we show you how to do it in a way that's going to save you a ton of time, a ton of money, and a ton of energy. And then we hold you accountable to the process. So we make sure that you do the work. So it's kind of the kick in the pants to get this thing done and to do it the right way. Now, the way this looks practically is we've got our step-by-step online education portal online. This walks you through the entire process. So from ideation to writing to publishing to choosing editors, cover designers, all that stuff. And then also, I think most importantly, and the huge value piece is marketing and publishing the book successfully. Now, alongside that, you're going to have a coach that's in your corner that's going to be your personal coach, and you're going to get one-on-one coaching with them throughout the process. You're also going to get live weekly group coaching calls with me. So I'm in here every single week, and you can ask every question that you have every single week. Every question gets answered throughout the entire process. So any questions that you have, you ask them and I'll answer them. In that format, you're also going to get access to what we call our Rolodex of outsourcers, or our book production team. So these are the cover designers, editors, people that are going to save you, gosh, hundreds if not thousands of dollars in this process. And they kind of do the hard work for you. And then you're also going to have some community and accountability. So we've got about 1,600 authors in our community, our paid community, and this is a place where people share ideas to help each other, and we're really looking out for each other. Now, over the past few years since I started Self-Publishing School, we've been able to help over 4,000 people through this process. So we put together kind of this little map of North and South America here. You can see these are all the dots. These are students who have joined the program. And then check this out. You zoom out a bit. This is international. So we have students in, I don't even know how many countries, but around the world, all over the world, writing in different languages, different topics, all those things, right? So this is really a tried and true program. And this process works if you follow it. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, and kind of working with us or chatting further, the next step is going to be to book a call. So we've set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about your book and about how you can apply these ideas that I've just taught you on the webinar to help with your book. So on that session, we're going to talk about a couple things. So we're going to talk about your goals for your book, your challenges for your book, and really lay out a step-by-step plan to get this book done. So whatever's holding you back, we're going to show you how to overcome it. And the cost of this phone call is free, right? So this is an area where no matter what, I'm going to make a bold promise and say that this is going to be the best 45 minutes that you've spent on your book. When you take the time, you're going to be speaking with one of the experts on my team. So these are people who have literally walked hundreds of people through this process, and they're really going to help you get clear on your goals and get clear on your next steps. Now, only book a call. This is kind of a disclaimer. Only book a call if you're serious about getting your book done now, if you're serious about writing a great book that helps people, if you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, and if you're serious about investing in yourself and doing what needs to be done to launch your book successfully. So if that's you, what you're going to want to do is right now head on over to self-publishingschool.com/apply. You can click, there should have been a button just popped up that said schedule now. So you can click a blue button that says schedule now, and you're going to head on over to that page and go ahead and book your call. So go ahead and head on over to that page now. Either click the blue schedule now button or go to self-publishingschool.com/call, or sorry, /apply. and go and book your call. And these are first come, first serve. These spots book up very quickly. So you're going to want to go ahead and do that right now. And then hop back in the chat and just type in the chat, I booked a call. Okay, so once you booked a call, or if you're about to go book a call, just type I booked a call, and would love to give you a shout out here. Now, why are we doing this? Well, obviously writing and publishing a book changed my life forever, right? It's single-handedly the best decision that I've ever made in my life. I love helping people. I love giving back. So I know that no matter whether you decide to work with us, you're going to get a lot of value on this call. And then obviously, yes, you might be interested in our help, and you might end up working with us. If so, that's great. I know that you're going to be exponentially more successful, and we're going to help you through the process, and we're going to be in your corner. We're going to save you a ton of time. We're going to save you a ton of money, and we're going to help you make a whole lot more money and impact a whole lot more people with this book. So if that's something you're interested in, again, go ahead and head on over to self-publishingschool.com/apply, or click the blue Schedule Now button. And you can go ahead and find a time that works. So I'll walk you through the process, and then we'll open this up for questions. So once you land on that page, you're going to scroll down, and you're going to see a little, this calendar should load. Now, this calendar is going to have time slots, and there should be some time slots available today and tomorrow. So what you're going to want to do is pick the soonest time that you can that works for you, select that time, and then that's going to go into step 2 of the process. Where you're going to have to fill out a short application. So this honestly takes probably 90 seconds. Just answer a couple questions there. Then press submit. Once you press submit, you should see a confirmation page, and your call is officially scheduled. Now, if you don't go all the way through the process and press submit, and you just select the time, your call won't get scheduled. So make sure that you go through the process, click the time, and then press submit. An important thing to note, this is kind of like if you ever bought tickets on Ticketmaster or something, if someone else is booking that same time slot at the same time that you are, you might get an error message. So then it's just going to send you back to the first page, find a different time because someone might have just booked that. There's a bunch of people on this webinar, so that happens. And then then you can press submit, and then that call time will be scheduled. So once you book the time, you should see a page that looks something like this. So it says, thank you, please watch this video carefully. And this video is going to kind of set some expectations and let you know what to expect on your call, right? So it's really going to really help make sure that you prepare and get the most out of your call. Now, the one thing that I will recommend is, if possible, do the mind map exercise that we talked about earlier on the webinar before your call. So everyone who said, hey, I can commit to doing a mind map, get that done. If you book a call and if there's slots open in like an hour or two, that's fine if you don't get it done. But if you do, that'll really help make sure that you learn a lot and you make the most out of your call. Okay, so that's the process. And again, once you go through this process, just type in the chat box, I booked a call. Would love to give you a shout out here. Now, 2 final important things, and then we'll dive into a Q&A. So we have a fast action bonus. So if you fill out the application, book a call, and are accepted and decide to enroll within the next 24 to 48 hours, so on the call, I'll personally promote your book when it launches. So I'm gonna promote it in 3 places. Number 1, to the Self-Publishing School community, about 1,600 people. Number 2, to our Facebook page, which has over 110,000 people. And then number 3, to our blog, which we get over 1 million hits on that per year. So that's just for folks who book a call while on this webinar and who end up being accepted and enroll in the program. And then lastly, we have what I call our Student for Student Promise. So I mentioned that we're building the school through Pencils of Promise. It's actually slated to be finished this year. And so if you enroll in Self-Publishing School, it's kind of the 1-for-1 model, right? So you provide education for a child in need. So for each student that joins, we fund the education of a child in need. So if you're still on the call, and you're interested in chatting further, and again, even if you just want to get some help with your book, I highly recommend that you take the time to book a call now. So go to self-publishingschool.com/apply or click the blue Schedule Now button. Now, even if you're on the fence and you're like, hey, I'm not sure if I want to work with Self-Publishing School, or I'm not sure if this is something that I'm going to go through with, I would just encourage you to book a call. Again, I think it'll be the most powerful 30 to 45 minutes you spent on your book. We're going to help you get super clear on what you need to do to get this thing done. There's also, like I mentioned, the fast action bonus and a discount if you decide to sign up on that call. Now, one important disclaimer, don't book a call if you're not going to show up. So a lot of, these slots always get filled up. And so if you're going to book a call and not show up, that's going to take a slot from someone else who would have wanted that slot, right? And we want to make sure that we can help as many people as possible. So don't book a slot if you're not going to show up. Make sure that you show up exactly on time. We're going to give you a call exactly on time, and we're going to be ready to help with your book. All we ask is that you show up, right? So find a time that works for you today or tomorrow. Book a call, and we'll be happy to chat with you about your book and about how we can help. So that's it. We're going to dive into some questions here. I see kind of some questions coming into the chat box. If you haven't already, head on over to this page, find a time that works, and then comment in the chat box, I booked a call. So type in the chat box, I booked a call. Would love to give you a shout out here, and I'm going to answer some questions. So looks like Lindsay says, I booked a call. Jim, I booked a call. Deanna, I booked a call. Sandy, I booked a call. Let's see. Laura says, booked it. That's awesome. Sweet. And I see some other stuff. Thanks so much for this webinar. And yes, I will do the mind map. Have to learn to do it as productively as the other lady. No problem, Margaret. I would also encourage you to book a call, and we'll be able to help you once you get that mind map finished. Let's see. Jim Deal says, I just booked a call. So we've got 2 Jims that booked a call. That's awesome. That's great news. So I've got some questions here. So I've got some questions that are from earlier in the presentation, and feel free to also drop your questions here now. So let's see. I'm nearing the end of my book. I didn't want to self-publish, but it appears that I'm being led by the Lord to self-publish. I need to help market and publish. All of these details beyond completion of this first book. This is from Leela. Yeah, absolutely. So Leela, the news is one of the best things that I've been in. You're going to learn a lot of skills that will carry over. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing. This is actually becoming the choice for most people, because for 99.9% of people, it does not make sense to traditionally publish. Now, I know there used to be this stigma around self-publishing. There also kind of when people feel like they're not legitimate if they don't go through a traditional publisher, which these days is just no longer true. Right. And if you were with me at the beginning of this webinar, I talked about how over 70% of all profits from books are made by independently published authors. So not only are you not going to make as much money if you traditionally publish, but oftentimes you're not going to sell as many copies because, the publisher isn't going to help you market. And all the stuff that we teach, publishers, agents, they just have no clue on this stuff, especially the online side of things. They just have no clue. So love it. I'm super excited for you, Leela. And I would encourage you to book a call if you haven't already. And we'd love to help you with your book. So head on over to self-publishingschool.com/apply, or click that blue schedule now button. We'd love to help you get this thing to the finish line and make sure that you do it the right way. Nick, tough question. What percentage of students do so well? What are the key differences between those students who succeed and those who don't? So Nick, we've been trying to do a much better job of getting exact stats. I know that we've had right at 1,000 books that we can track that have been launched. We're not a publisher. So the good news is that means that we don't take any of your royalties or anything like that. The bad news is for us, sometimes it can be tough to track how many books have been published. So I know that we're right at 1,000 that we can track, and we've been getting a lot better data. So I know we just ran some stats recently. I think it was 92% of our students who finish and publish their book do so within 12 months. So it's a pretty accelerated process. I want to say it was, 30 or 50 something % of those was within 3 to 6 months of joining. So we really expedite the process. And then to answer your question, the key differences, the ones who are successful, they follow the process and they get in there and they do the work, right? So they don't question it. They don't try to outsmart it. They just follow exactly what we teach, and they take advantage of the support that we give, right? So the coaching, the accountability, the weekly group coaching calls with me, all those things, they take advantage of that, and they do it the right way. And so that combined with a maniacal focus on finishing your rough draft, which that's where most people get hung up. And I've just seen if people don't finish the rough draft, they're exponentially less likely to succeed, because there's kind of this light bulb moment where when people finish the rough draft, they finally believe that they can do this, right? That it's within reach, and that this is something that they can take to the finish line. So that's a great question, Nick. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to book a call. We'd love to chat with you kind of about your book and about how we can help. I'm going to put a little bit more time on the clock here. We got some more questions rolling in here. Awesome. Mark says, thanks for the webinar. Booked a call. Richard says, I booked a call with Dylan. Awesome, Richard. Nick booked an appointment. Okay, awesome. Love it, Nick. Let's see. Marilyn booked a call. That's great. All right, cool. So let's see. From Amy, question for you. I have a Christian publisher who is interested in me. My biggest goal for the book is to get it into as many hands as possible. My desire is to focus on the message and the ministry and less on the technical details of publishing and marketing. Can you explain the difference between the two? Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm assuming you're probably meaning the difference between self-publishing and traditionally publishing, but then also the desire to focus on the message and the ministry versus the technical details of publishing and marketing. So the good news, Amy, is we make this process as easy and painless as possible. And again, just on the teach you to fish versus fishing for you, I've just found that taking the time to learn some of the marketing skills is super important. And people underestimate how important that is. Now, sure, the technical aspects of publishing, we're going to make that easy. And even if you have like, an assistant or someone who works with you that could help, you can also just pass that off to them and they can do the coaching calls for you. Some people do that when it comes to the publishing piece. But around the Christian publisher, so a lot of times publishers will actually send their authors to us to learn the writing and the marketing, because this is a common misconception, but publishers do not help you with the marketing. They help you with distribution, so they can get you sometimes into bookstores, but a lot of times that's only during your launch, and they're not going to help with the marketing. So a lot of people sign up with a publisher thinking they're going to get all the support, and then the publisher sends them to us, right? And so then they have to sign up with us, because we found that we can be kind of like an insurance policy for the publisher, where we're going to teach people and empower them to write the book well and then to market it successfully. So the publishers want to send them our way, because then the author is going to be more successful. But the question I ask is, why sign with the publisher in the first place if they're not going to help with those key things? So what I've found oftentimes is that going with a publisher, it's going to take additional years and tack on a bunch of unnecessary time. You're going to lose creative freedom, around your title, around what you say, what you can't say, around your cover. They're going to control a lot of aspects of that process. And then you're going to make less money. And you won't be able to publish it as fast. So I think, and then the last thing I'll mention is just, I think Eileen Wilder is a great example of this, where she self-published and then said, okay, now it makes sense to traditionally publish, but she got a way better deal. So Amy, especially if you're a first-time author and you have a publisher that's interested in you, there's just a lot of value from self-publishing. And then if you decide to traditionally publish later, you're going to get a way better deal, and they're going to invest significantly more in making sure that you and your book are successful, because you have kind of a more proven track record. So that's kind of what we can help with on the front end, is doing it right the first time. And then if you decide to do more books in the future, like I know Eileen's done that. I think she did a second book with a traditional publisher. That's great. And she got a much better deal because of that. And she still was able to kind of focus. I mean, she had when she was writing the book, she had a family, ministry that she was trying to run, kind of all these things. She joined the program with no idea even what she was going to write about. And then she went through the process, followed the process, and was successful with it. So I think she's kind of a living proof that that process does work. I see a couple of people asked about a replay. So you will be getting a replay. I think it'll be either in 4 hours or 24 hours. I forgot which setting we put on this one, but you will definitely be getting a replay within the next 24 hours. Absolutely. So if you missed things, or if you had a if you know, had a technical difficulties, glitches, stuff like that, then yeah, feel free to catch the replay. Amy says, thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. This is so helpful. Thanks for all you do, Chandler. Awesome. And then linked up her website. Awesome, Amy. And yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if you've booked a call yet or not. If not, we'd love to chat with you kind of about your book, about how that relates to your ministry, about how, kind of what are the best next steps, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing, kind of lay out a plan there. So if you haven't booked a call already, I would encourage you to do so. And we'd love to chat with you. This sounds like an awesome thing that you're doing here. All right, I'm seeing a few more questions that I'm going to answer here. Just marking some questions. Let's see. Deanna says, this is only for nonfiction writers. No, we teach fiction as well. And we actually have a fiction-specific program. So we can chat with you about that on your call. I think I remember you booking a call, Deanna. So we can chat with you about that. If the fiction route is better for you and that's the path that you want to take, we can plug you into that program. So we've got a lot of really great coaches. We've got faith-based coaches. We've got one of our coaches used to be a missionary, or not used to be, is a missionary. She just moved back from Germany to the States, kind of in between. We've got, fiction specific, children's book specific. We got all kinds of great coaches. Janae booked a call. Thanks. Dr. Crosby, I booked a call. Awesome. Let's see. Margaret booked a call. Charlotte, do you need a network to be successful in self-publishing? You do not. It definitely will help, but you did not. I didn't have a big network, and I didn't have a big email list. I didn't have any of those things when I first launched a book, so The Productive Person, and that was still successful. Love it. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of final questions come in here. I'm going to do a kind of rapid fire on your questions. I'm probably just a little bit more time to the clock here. I'm going to do a rapid fire on your questions. And then also, if you haven't already, go and head on over. This is the last call to book a call. So if you haven't already, go and head on over to self-publishingschool.com/apply. Or click the blue Schedule Now button. I know a lot of the times have already been booked, so hopefully there's still times available either later today or tomorrow. So find the earliest time that works for you. Go ahead and click the time, fill out the short application, and then show up to your call when your scheduled time is, and we look forward to chatting with you on your book. And then obviously, once you booked a call, just comment in the chat and just say, I booked a call. And would love to give kind of a final shout out here to the final people who are booking calls while we're on this webinar. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And I'm going to answer just a couple final questions here. Charlotte says, hey, great. Thanks for offering this. I am likely going a different direction. Don't want to take away an opportunity from someone else. Great work. Thank you, Charlotte. I'd be curious what your timeline is for your book and kind of what you're thinking there. And honestly, even if you're on the fence, I would encourage you to just book a call. Because if nothing else, you'll get help on that direction that you're taking, whether you're going with a publisher or whether you're changing the topic of your book or anything like that. Again, these guys are experts. They're really smart, and they've helped hundreds of people through this process. So they'll be able to help you as well. Obviously, whether you end up working with this or not. Let's see. Tyrone says, I'm in a similar position as your brother. We finished a book on the prodigal son. The Christian agents are gun shy, and it's too Christian for the mainstream market. A little aggravating. I used to work for Capitol Records, so I know how it feels for music as well. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very relatable. So just know that this is kind of like the feedback I was giving to Amy a second ago. You don't have to have a traditional publisher. And if the agents are gun shy, sometimes one of the best things that you can do is just say, hey, I'm going to do this myself, and then prove it. do it well, and then you can always come back to them either to republish the book or with your next book. Let's see. I have a book written already. How do I finance the publishing and the launch? Yeah, that's a great question. So the good news is that this actually costs a whole lot less than you think, and we're going to navigate you through the process on how to do it cost effectively. Now, if you Google how much does it cost to publish a book, Self-Publishing School, an article by us should be one of the first results there. And you can click that, and that kind of breaks down the individual production cost. But the good news is, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times we'll save people thousands of dollars in the book production process just because they're working with the people that we recommend that do great work at great prices. And the good news is you don't have to buy 1,000 copies of the book. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So it can be very cost effective. Charlotte, does a book that encompasses other faiths fit into your readership or client base? Absolutely, Charlotte. We're very accepting here of all people, of all faiths, of all ethnicities, of all everything, right? So we're happy to help, no matter whether you're a Christian, whether you're writing about that, whether you're writing about something else. We're happy to help. Tyrone says, I can't book yet as I have a co-author and we need to coordinate our schedules. I will figure we can get a call in at another time other than the next 48 hours. Yeah, Tyrone, I encourage you to just find a time that you think might work. Go ahead and book that. There will be a link that you can reschedule if necessary. Obviously, that's not ideal. But if you have a time that you think might work for the both of you, I'd go ahead and pull that up and chat sooner than later. And obviously, we'll be able to kind of get the process rolling and be able to help you there. Heather, does your marketing strategy focus on building a blog or social media presence, or does it focus on getting your book in stores? So actually a little bit of neither, Heather. So I'm a firm believer that a blog and social media presence for most people is kind of a waste of time until you get critical mass. So a lot of people teach on that, but it's not the needle mover. So we focus only on the handful of things that are going to move the needle and sell as many copies of your book as possible, and in the minimum amount of effort possible, right? So we want to really focus in on the handful of things that are going to move the needle. And so sometimes that's getting your book in bookstores. Oftentimes it's not. Over 70% of all books sold are sold on Amazon. So oftentimes it's ways that you can move books via that medium, and that's a lot of what we talk about and teach on as well. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, final call to book a call. Let's see. Marilyn says, thanks so much for this time. It has been worth every minute. Thank you. Natasha says, I booked a call. Love it. Heather says, I booked a call. Third time lucky. Yeah, so maybe you were having a little bit of difficulty with other people booking your times. Sorry about that, Heather. Let's see. I think that's a different Heather than I was just talking to or just answering your question. Let's see, my book is being formatted by an individual. What about marketing? Yeah, so Randall, that's what I was teaching kind of in the final phase of this webinar, and that's what we can also talk about on the call once you book it. And then also that's obviously one of the big value adds and big things that we teach about in the program. Yep. And let's see. Casey booked a call. Susan booked a call. If you haven't already, I'm just going to give a last call, and I'm going to close down the webinar here in probably about 30 seconds. Let's see. Perfect. This answers my question. I agree with you about social media. Heather says, thank you. I will book a call when I'm ready to start marketing. Yeah, Heather, I would actually just encourage you to go ahead and book a call, because honestly, no matter whether you haven't started writing yet or you're in the writing process, obviously we help shortcut the entire process. So we'll be able to help make sure you're making progress on the writing. And then probably most importantly, we'll get in the home stretch and really teach the marketing in a way that's easy to follow, in a way that anybody can do successfully. You don't have to be super tech savvy or anything like that. So I encourage you to just go ahead and book a call to chat with us. If this is something that you're serious about doing over the next 6 months, right? Maybe 9 months at the most. If this is a maybe next year or maybe the year after that, then it probably doesn't make sense to book a call. But if this is a priority, then I definitely book a call. We'll be able to help you. Amy's trying to book a call, having trouble with her connection. Sorry about that, Amy. Hopefully that goes through. Awesome. Annika booked a call. Perfect. And I see a couple. Oh, perfect. Heather says I'll book now. 6 to 9 months is my timeline. That's perfect. And then a couple of people are asking about the slides and my notes and all that good stuff. So if you go to self-publishingschool.com/apply and you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be a little link that says click here to get the slides. That's going to take you to another page where we've got slides there. We've also got notes and stuff like that. So that's there on that page. So that's it, folks. Hey, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to attend this presentation, to attend this training. I hope that you got some great notes. I hope that you learned a lot. And most importantly for me is I hope that you act on this and get your book done, right? Don't let this be another training where you just show up and you don't do anything with it. I would cry if that's what happened. I want to make sure that books are important to me, right? Obviously books are probably important to you. That's why you're here. I'm just a firm believer that we can change people's lives and we can change your life through books. Obviously books have changed my life. I've used books to help a ton of people, and books have made me a ton of money. I'm a firm believer in them. And so if this is something that you're serious about, I would just encourage you to take action on it, right? Whether you committed to getting your mind map done tonight, then do that. Or right after this webinar is over, then go ahead and do that right now as soon as we finish, and make sure that you move forward. Again, don't just attend this training and don't do anything with it. Let's get that book done. Obviously, I know that we can help you. So if you choose to work with us, I'd love that. And I know that, you're going to be way more successful, and, you're going to get your book done. It's going to be a good book. It's going to sell a whole lot better, than it would otherwise. And we're going to teach you a lot of really good things along the way. Either way, if you decide to work with us or not, just get the book done because that's important. And this is a big thing, both for you, from a legacy and an impact perspective, but also just to committing to getting something done. So if you haven't already, go ahead and I'm about to close the webinar. So go ahead and open the link so that you can book a call. Go to self-publishingschool.com/apply or click the blue schedule now button. Find a time that works for you today or tomorrow. Go and book a call and then comment in the chat box and let me know that you did. Again, thank you so much for attending the training today. I hope that we'll get the chance to talk with you soon. And I can't wait to see your book published here soon. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.